In this video, I want to answer the question, what is a critical chain? The idea of the critical chain was first suggested by Eliyahu Goldratt in his 1997 book of the same title, Critical Chain. And in this book, he applies his earlier theory of constraints to the world of project management. In applying his theory of constraints to project planning, Goldratt starts with the critical path method. But what he does is focus less on the tasks and more on the resources, and in particular, resources that are constrained, applying buffers to protect the schedule around the usage of these critical resources and at critical points in the schedule. Formally, we can apply three different kinds of buffer. The first of these are project buffers, and these provide contingency time to the whole project, or, as I use them, to a significant work stream or a stage or phase of our project. The second type of buffer is a feeder buffer. Now, when we've got a critical path and we put all of our focus in making sure that we protect that critical path and we manage risks around it, we need to be sure that the non-critical paths will still deliver on time, so that having achieved our critical path, we're not delayed by other tasks, and therefore feeder buffers add contingency to the schedule on non-critical parts of our project plan to make sure that they contribute to these critical nodes on time. The final kind of buffer is a resource buffer, and this provides schedule contingency around the use of key resources, resources that are constrained either in their capability, their capacity, or their availability. In fact, we also use resource buffers in a second way to make sure that tasks can be sure to complete in good time to be available to hand over in the chain of dependencies to our constrained resource. So if we have a constrained resource that can only work between the 4th and the 9th of April, then we can also use a resource buffer to ensure that the preceding task completes on time. There's a lot of powerful theory about ways we can apply the theory of constraints in the critical chain method. But what I want to show you is a simple approach that I use that takes the ideas and uses them in a very practical, very straightforward way in the sorts of projects that I've done. Let's say that I've got 3 team members, Amit, Becky and Chang, and each of them is going to do one of 3 tasks within a work stream. And each of these 3 tasks needs to be done sequentially because of a chain of dependencies. So what I'll do is sit down with each of my team members and discuss the amount of time that they believe they will need to deliver the task. In sitting down with Amit, I discover that he expects the task to take 3 days, but is concerned that this is a task that he's not done before, so he'd like me to allow a total of 5 days, giving him 2 days of contingency if he finds it's a more challenging or more difficult task than he'd expected. In sitting down with Becky, she's confident that she can deliver this task in 5 or so days. She asks me to give her 6 days just to be sure, with the expectation that she'll probably finish a day early. Chang has the final task in the workflow. He's expecting it'll take around about 4 days, but he also knows that there are a number of things that can go wrong with this particularly complex and difficult task. Therefore, in order to feel confident that he can assure me that he will deliver on time, he's asking me for 8 days, 4 days contingency on his expected completion of 4 days. So when am I expecting this work stream to complete? Realistically, and perhaps a little skeptically, I'm going to say the best I can hope for is 19 days. Because psychologically, Amit doesn't have 3 days. He has 5 days. And we know that Parkinson's law tells us that work expands to fill the time available. Likewise, Becky has 6 days to do her work. And of course, Chang, although he thought the work could be done in 4 days, realistically, it's likely to take him the full 8 as he settles in and takes his time. So that's pretty much how I would do my scheduling, but it's not exactly how I do my scheduling. No. Rather than do it this way, I'd take a different approach. I'd have the same conversations and I'd gather the same estimates. But how I'd use those estimates would be different. I'd allocate 3 days to Amit to do his work, and then I'd allocate 5 to Becky and 4 to Chang. But what I hear them ask about the contingency that they believe they need? Well, in total, they've asked for 7 days contingency. So I'm going to give it to myself. I'm going to create 7 days of contingency along the critical chain rather than applying my contingency individually to each task. This way, I do 2 things. I change the psychology from expecting that they have the full contingency time available to them to recognizing that their available time is that much more constrained. Plus, by creating a big block of contingency, I give myself more flexibility against the materialization of unexpected risks. So the critical chain approach allows us to be more confident in our ability to deliver our projects to schedule. If you apply this to a series of work streams and create contingency before the next work stream starts, you break the critical path, and therefore delays on one part of the critical path won't bleed across and contaminate the next stage in the critical path. And that's fundamentally what the critical chain is all about. It gives you the ability to be more confident in delivering your project on schedule.